Tilder! This is the Viltrox 56mm f1.4. It's an APS-C lens, making it approximately 85mm equivalent in full-frame terms. Cost around $270. Comes in Sony, Fuji, and Canon EOS M mounts. It's got a USB port on the bottom for firmware upgrades. It has a ghosting type flare. Pretty sharp wide open, but I would stop down just to get some more things in focus. 180-degree focus throw. The killer feature of this lens is the fact that you can actually repeat focus. Do I recommend it? Absolutely yes. Done. Roll that intro. What's going on, everybody? Too long didn't read Filmmaker here, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So, going on this whole Viltrox kick in terms of their lenses, which if you haven't seen already in my previous video, I do have a review of the Viltrox 23mm, which is approximately a 35mm. That review is right there. And yes, Viltrox actually has the full kit. There is a 33mm, which is a 50mm equivalent, which I will link down below if you want to check that out. For close focusing, I measured approximately 25 inches or 63.5 centimeters. The Viltrox has no problem with Sony's face eye detection, as it does follow focus as I'm moving up pretty close to the camera, and when I move back, same thing, everything focus and racks nice and smoothly. With focus breathing, I have two lenses placed on the very outer border just to see if we zoom in or zoom out as I go through close focus to infinity focus, and it looks like focus breathing is pretty well controlled. In terms of the flare characteristics, it actually does quite a good job, and really only you'll probably get some ghosting if you have a powerful enough light hitting the lens, but otherwise I'm actually quite impressed with how it works. Here's a little example. If you're super close and you got a much more powerful light hitting it from an angle, you'll kind of sort of see a little bit of ghosting, but otherwise the flares are pretty well controlled. The great thing about this lens is that it's got a 180-degree focus throw and everything is completely mapped out. So as you can see here, it doesn't matter if I'm racking slowly or quickly between these two marks that I've put, you are able to repeat focus, which is awesome. In terms of sharpness, these were taken with my Sony a7 III for the most amount of megapixels, and I did blow it up to 225%. And even at wide open, you might get a little bit of chromatic aberration showing up, but otherwise, in all cases, it's really sharp and definitely sharp enough for video work. In terms of the bokeh balls, it pretty much looks very smooth. I don't see any onioning or artifacts inside the actual orbs itself. And pretty much as you look at everything back there, it just smoothly, creamily disappears from focus. And hey guys, now we are looking at the 56mm 1.4 completely wide open on my Sony a7S III. We are shooting it in Super 35 mode, so this is 1080. And yes, I had to do some adjustments of the lights, and I'm sorry, the 85 is just super close in this setup because normally when I am filming with my Tamron 28 to 75, I'm usually shooting at like 35 to 40 millimeters. So bear with me as we talk about this. So you've already seen some of the tests, and in terms of, its overall performance, it's quite good. There are some chromatic aberrations as you saw, and of course the flaring. Usually with any sort of 85mm look, flaring does kind of get in the ghosting. But I want to talk about the bottom line. Is this something you should be thinking about for your overall filmmaking kit? Now, if you've seen my previous video on the 23mm, I'm going to be reiterating a lot of the same things. And that's simply that Viltrox has created a really nice budget lens for Super 35 shooters that are either on some of the FX cameras, or maybe you are using the Sony a6000 series. So basically what they've done is they've created a lens that uses the awesome autofocus technology from the Sony cameras, but they don't exhibit the old school fly-by-wire problems in which it's like nearly impossible to actually repeat your focus. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's basically two versions now. There's the old school fly-by-wire, which was completely dependent on the speed of how you turned your lenses. And now you have the Viltrox, which is completely mapped out to a 180-degree focus throw. So here's the difference. If you want to just move the barrel, focus barrel, 90 degrees, on the old school fly-by-wire lenses, if you moved it slowly, you might only move your focus plane by 1 foot. And if you did it super fast, then you might actually go from close focus all the way to infinity within that 90 degrees. As you can see here in this example on the Tamron lens, which has the traditional fly-by-wire, if I'm moving at approximately the best speed, then yes, I can actually sort of repeat focus. But the moment I start going fast, you'll see that I've completely shot past any sort of focus and I can't regain it back. With the Viltrox and some of the other Sony lenses that are actually mapped out, the 90-degree focus pull, let's say it only moves 2.5 feet. So it doesn't matter if you move the focus barrel super slow or super fast, it's always going to move between 2.5 feet of your focus plane, which makes it so that you can actually repeat focus when you're using a follow focus wheel. So this is what's so awesome, is that Viltrox is basically coming up with a budget version instead of you having to pay a lot of money for some Sony prime lenses that do have this feature. I don't know which ones actually have it. I know a couple of primes do, but like I said, these Tamron lenses, which are actually, Tamron is a Sony sister brand now, I think. Well, this lens does not have that feature. So it really just depends. Now, that being said, if you are coming from a full frame camera system, fret not, because Viltrox has announced that they're coming out with a 24, 35, 50, and they already have an 85. I believe these are all f1.8. And assuming this entire lineup has a mapped out 180-degree focus throw where you can repeat focus, then for full frame camera users, this is great news, because most of you know that I have switched from Panasonic over to Sony because I want to have an autofocus system when I'm doing YouTube videos. But when I'm off shooting feature films, sometimes I use autofocus, sometimes I don't, and I want to pull focus. And I haven't done what I wanted to do originally, which was starting to invest in Sigma EF Art prime lenses, which are now kind of considered legacy because EF lenses are just not really being made anymore. There's a lot of mirrorless lenses that all have this fly-by-wire system. And some companies are doing what Viltrox and Sony are doing, and some companies are not. So this becomes a problem because I don't want to have this big chunky lens necessarily all the time, and I don't want to use it through an adapter. And these lenses all use an older style of focusing motors, so they do create a little bit more noise than some of these lenses here. So that being said, Viltrox, I think, might be popping themselves into a really awesome category of budget full frame lenses that are going to be amazing for filmmakers because, again, you have awesome autofocus and you can repeat focus. The only thing that I think Viltrox can do that might actually make this even better for them is to come up with more firmware options for filmmakers. So let's say, because let's be honest, a cinema lens is very, very chunky and they have like 270-degree focus throw. So you can really finite and follow a character as they're moving. These lenses are much smaller. So I would say, Viltrox, what if you gave different versions of firmwares where it gives you 270-degree focus throw instead of the 180 that's already programmed? Or maybe some people want to use 90 degrees. Some people might want to use 360 degrees. I don't know. Everyone has their own preference. But I think it would be very interesting if Viltrox gives you the option so you can interject whatever firmware you want depending on what projects you're doing. Now, I know this is a little janky because I would rather just do it through maybe a on button on the lens. Maybe you could do that to flip between the focus throws, or obviously if you could do it through the camera, that'd be great, but we can't. So this is just the next best thing. And if Viltrox, you want to do something like this, I think it'll definitely help cinematographers when they're moving between autofocus and actually pulling focus. And hey, that is it for this video, everybody. If this video has made all the influence in your purchasing decisions, I would truly appreciate it if you check out my Amazon affiliate links down below. Again, this costs nothing extra to you, just gives me a little compensation so I can continue making videos like this for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.